In an unregulated landscape, business borrowers ultimately look for protection assurance and transparency when engaging with a lender. The role of independent oversight body Lending Standards Board is to promote fair lending through its standards of lending practice. Robyn Dwyer finds out more about how these voluntary standards, with an outcome-focused approach, can benefit both lenders and consumers.
Overdrafts, loans, credit or charge cards. Whatever form it takes, most of us have borrowed money at some point in our lives. But both for businesses and consumers, trust in the lender and the lending process is vital.
Helping provide that trust and transparency and protecting the borrower is the Lending Standards Board. It's the only independent body that oversees this industry, which it helps regulate by signing firms up to its voluntary standards of lending practice.
It's an opportunity for the industry really to build trust and consumer confidence. They're a high standard, they're a high benchmark, they go beyond sort of statutory rules. So it's an opportunity, I think, for the industry first and foremost to set the agenda for good conduct. We've got firms who are now working on these higher standards, which offer increased degrees of consumer protection. So there's a real benefit too for consumers.
Split between business and personal customers, the new standards for business encompass 8 key areas, covering loans, overdrafts, credit and charge cards, with more under consideration. And both have separate sections for governance and oversight.
For registered firms, signing up to the standards of lending practice is a mark of trust and integrity, showing that they promote fair lending. For a business or consumer, that builds trust and provides reassurance in case anything should go wrong.
Money Advice Trust is a charity that helps people facing debt issues manage their finances.
So if someone comes to us and they're in debt or financial difficulty and they have a complaint about a lender or their practices, well, this is a really useful set of guidelines to be able to identify if there's a legitimate complaint and then to go back and talk to the firm in relation to it. Secondly, I think they've really helped to drive up practice right across the board, because there's a clear expectation that we have of how we expect firms to behave, and that's ultimately driven up good customer outcomes.
When a company signs up to the voluntary standards, it becomes subject to the LSB oversight programme, making sure they meet its aims. It also brings advice, information and insight.
The standards do allow for that flexibility, so therefore if we do pick something up that doesn't necessarily look right, it does mean that they can look at their own business models and make it work. Because it's very customer outcomes focused, just having a set process in place to tick a box to say, yes, I've met that requirement, doesn't necessarily always work because customers don't fit a box. So it does allow for that better outcome ultimately.
This robust, responsive and relevant set of standards have been welcomed in the wider industry.
It provides a real focus on outcomes, which is extremely valuable, and it's got an end-to-end journey really behind it. So it's not just about lending and underwriting credit right at the first point of delivery, but actually looking at the whole of the customer journey. At UK Finance, we really want to encourage as many organisations that are finance providers as possible to get behind it. So we're encouraging and promoting this. The more this becomes a universal standard, I think the better for the whole industry.
We have got the substantial lenders in the UK, so that does equate to over 90% of the UK small business lending market. But we are looking actively to encourage more firms to come on board. It's an opportunity for the industry really to take ownership here.
Through these standards, LSB are committed to building trust and promoting fair lending and cementing their position as a leading, influential voice in the lending industry.